this video, we'll be learning how to select data using SQL. And the first one up is the select function, which is used to retrieve specific columns of data from a table. Next up is select distinct, which is used to retrieve unique values from a column, eliminating duplicates. And last up is from, which specifies the table from which data should be retrieved from. Okay, without further ado, let's get right into the video. Okay, so right here we have our data set, and I'm just going to specify kind of what we're looking at here, just so you know what we're getting into. So at the top right here, it's just going to be me talking about what is the topic, and this video is about selecting data from SQL. And then in here, I'll be bringing in basically the different questions we'll be answering. And if you see right here with these two hyphen marks, is anytime you see this, you could write this in the query and it will not be pulled through. So anything you see here that's in this purple color will not be part of any query we do. It's just for more organization purposes. We have right here our data set, and looking through this, let's just kind of take a second to look at this. We have our ID column, customer name, segment, the score here, which is satisfaction score on a scale of 1 to 10, the timestamp, reason, city, state, channel, and so on. And if we're looking through this, if we're just glancing, we're trying to get an idea of what this is about. This is about a call center for a company. And there's many different types of calls they get. And, we can look at right away where we see, okay, what types of calls they get. Call center, email, web. But this is a large data set. And we might not know all of it right away. And that's why we're trying to use SQL to further understand, okay, what's happening within this call center, what's going on. Is it good, bad, ugly? What's pretty much happening in all parts of our business? And that's what we'll be doing in this course, is trying to answer these questions for, let's say, a manager or stakeholder. And the first part up here is we have our first question. And it's we have to bring in only the customer names along with their ID. Okay, so simple requests. Let's say, if someone comes to you and asks, okay, we just need the customers and their ID because we're trying to do something on the side with a project or whatnot. So we got to think, how can we pull that information from this data set? So we have to think right away, okay, what columns am I pulling in first? And we see, okay, customer names and their ID. And we see right here that we have those two columns. We have the ID column and customer name. So we got to think now, okay, we know what we want, but how do we type that, right? We know we want to pull in, but how do we type that out? And that's where we use the select function to do that. So how I'm going to start this off is typing in select. And a couple things here is I put all of my functions in capital letters just so I know what I'm working with here. You could also type it in lowercase. You could even type it however you want. You can even throw some capital letters or lowercase in there. I like to keep it capitalized just so I know what I'm working with. So I'm starting with my select function. Now I got to tell myself, okay, what am I trying to bring from this data set? I'm trying to bring in the ID and customer name. And if you notice right here, I'm typing in the exact name of the column headers. I can't just type in customer name and forget, for example, the underscore. It has to be exactly what it says. Okay, so those are the columns I need. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press enter. And I think another big thing about typing in SQL is there's many different ways I just saw right there that you could type in your queries. I like to stay as structured and organized as possible because there will be times, and you'll see, maybe not so much in this course, but maybe in the next one with more intermediate or advanced topics, that queries can start getting pretty lengthy. And if you start just writing one big line, let's say we're just writing one query, it goes all the way through here, yes, it'll work, but it'll be incredibly difficult to make changes or recognize mistakes that happen. So what I'm going to do from now is, okay, I have the columns I want, but where's it coming from? And you see the word I said right there, the word from. So type in from, and where's it from? So if we go over here, right, if you remember from last video on how we set up our database, is we have to do the database first and then the data set. So the database is SQL course, and the data set is data. Now, the thing about Google BigQuery is we have to use backticks to do this. So using the backtick right there, I'm going to type in SQL course as the database adds in. And I'm going to do period. And I'm going to type in data for the data set. Do another backtick. Do the colon at the end just to recognize I'm done. I'm going to select this whole entire data right here, click run, and let's see what we get. Okay, and perfect, as we get a result right here. We get the ID and customer name only. We don't get anything else. That's all we get in this data set. And the other great thing about BigQuery 2 is it only shows 50 results per page. If you wanted more, you could do 100, 200. But it's just best to do this because we don't need to see every single one. We just want to make sure that we are getting everything we need. And as you see right here, we are all good to go for question number 1. Okay, so great job on that first question. The next one we have up here is what are the unique values in the reason column? So thinking of that, let's look back at our data set here. And the reason column is right here. And like I said, this data set has around almost 33,000 rows. So we can't see everything right now. And just think, why do we want to answer that? Like, what's the importance of that question? Well, that's because as we see right here, we see like one, two, three, like three different types of reasons. But what if there's way more? What if there's different types of reasons? And I think what's important about this is we need to know what we're working with in this data set. So let's think about that, right? If we want unique values, right? We don't want duplicates, we want unique values. We want to use select distinct to do this. So going over here, I will type in select distinct and think, okay, what do we want to pick from in this, right? We only want the reason column. So let's type in reason, do enter. And where is this coming from? Type in from. And just like before, it's coming from the SQL course data dataset. So let's do our backticks, SQL course data. Close it up right there. Let's select our query and run and take a look at it. Okay, so take a look at our results. And even though I said before we saw three different types of reasons we want to check for more, it actually is only three different ones for billing question, service outage, and payments. But it was good to do that. I mean, it only took like 5-10 seconds to do that. And we're able to find out exactly what were the unique values in each one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a question here in a second, and I want you to try to answer it on your own, and I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it, and we'll go over it together. Now, before I do that really quick, I want to show you guys a quick little something about this as well. And because you might be wondering, okay, I am in this query, but how do I get back to the entire data set? So what I'm going to do right here is go to like this third line. I'm going to type in select, put a star symbol right there, from, and we'll do our SQL course data. So what that star does is it brings in the entire data set, every single part of it. And we're not working with any crazy data set now, so it's fine. However, you want to be very careful with that star because if you start doing queries involving that star, it can really cause significant performance issues, and we don't want our database crashing because of that. So that's all good right there. Let me cover this up and run it and get it back to our original database. Okay, so we got our database all good to go. And this question I want to ask here is we want to bring in the customer names along with their city and state. So I'll give you a second to do this question. Feel free to pause the video, and I'll see you when we are all good to go with this question. Okay, so let's work on this one together. So let me go to the next line. And like I said, we want to bring in the customer names along with city and state. So if we're thinking about this, right, we probably need to bring in three columns, the customer name, city, and the state. And for this, we have to think, okay, we're trying to bring in unique values or we just try and bring in information. We only want to bring in information. We're not trying to find unique values here. So all we got to do is use the select function here. So let's do select. And what are the column names? We have customer name as shown down below in our data. And we have city and state. Let's do city, comma, state. Click enter. From, and where's it from? And something you could do too, in case you don't feel like typing over and over again, we could just take from previous queries and click copy. We can paste it right here, just in case you don't feel like typing it out. So let's select all of this right here. And also another thing too, you might be wondering, okay, why am I only covering up part of it? Well, that's because if I click run, it's going to trigger all of these individually. And we don't want to do that. Other things you do too is you could kind of go to each one and also type in the two hyphens in front of it to kind of exit that out of the query. But in this sense, we're not doing anything too crazy. So all I could do is just highlight the parts I want to run, and BigQuery will do that for me. So let me run this really quick and take a look. Awesome. So we got everything we need right here, the customer names and cities and state. Okay, so that was a fantastic job there. I really appreciate you guys following along for this video, and I can't wait to see you on the next one.